You can tell immediately that these are two independent clauses and they're actually set up as separate sentences. There's nothing wrong with the current construction. So it's not going to surprise us to learn that they're actually looking for the least acceptable alternative. We're looking for the answer that's not correct. So what we have here is the first option, a cappella troupe and whose members recount African American history. This immediately jumps out as wrong. It's awkward and ungrammatical because they have put the and before whose, and it just sounds terrible. So it's probably our best bet because we're looking for the least acceptable alternative. But let's just look at the others to make sure. The a cappella troupe, whose members recount African American history. This actually does work. We've eliminated the independent clause status, and we've made it a dependent clause by using a relative pronoun here. And so we don't need to have the correct construction to combine it into a compound sentence. So B could be correct if we were looking for the right one, but we're not. This is also a relative pronoun, and so we'll also have a relative clause, making a dependent clause. So this could also work. The last one, they're replacing the period with a semicolon, which is also a correct way to create an independent clause from these, a compound sentence from these two independent clauses. So also wrong. The second, the group was originally a 4-person ensemble, but has expanded to 5-part harmonies. A 6th member acts as a sign language interpreter. The first thing you notice here is that we have 2 independent clauses that are combined with a comma. It's a comma splice or run-on sentence, and it's not going to work. So no change is not an option for us. The next one, ensemble, comma, but has expanded to a 5-part harmonies. I'm sorry, but harmonies. Oh, I see. Ensemble, but has expanded to 5-part harmonies, comma, a 6-member acts as a sign language interpreter. This basically has changed our independent clause, combining the glue right here, and that's not right because we still have this run-on part right here that's not going to work. H is incorrect because the statement after the semicolon, the ensemble has expanded to a 5-part harmonies, semicolon, a 6th member is acting as a sign language interpreter. And if we look at that, this part after the semicolon can't stand alone. Acting as part of, because we have a gerund instead of a verb at this point. The last one, J, is our correct answer because it uses the comma with the ing ending to create a gerund. And so we no longer have a verb here. And that's going to make this appropriate. Number 3, the members of the group have changed many times during the group's 30-year existence. More than 20 individuals have lent their voices. What we have in this option are 2 independent clauses that are incorrectly joined. We have them here. So C, the presence of the answer choice with a period basically is warning us that the question's asking us to divide a run-on sentence. And what we've got here, the best answer, C, is what they're really looking for. So that is the correct answer, because if you read it, we can tell we have 2 independent clauses that aren't combined correctly. All the other options have comma splices, although the phrase during the group's 30-year existence makes sense at the end of the first sentence, and it actually works also at the beginning of the second sentence. So that could go either way. Historians of the crossword puzzle, yes, they do exist, generally date the brain teaser's first appearance to December 21st, 1913, shortly before the end of World War I. We've got a period here combining an independent clause with a phrase, and that is not going to work because this leaves us a fragment. So the first no change option, no change option is not an option. And actually D is not going to be an option either because it's really doing the same exact thing, using a semicolon in place of that period. Option B, on the other hand, correctly uses a comma to join the fragment shortly before the end of World War I to the end of the sentence that's ahead of it. So that is the best option. Let's also look at C. At the end of 1913, comma, this was shortly before the end of World War I. That's also an independent clause. So at that point, we have two independent clauses, but you can't use just a comma to combine those. So C is wrong. B is our best choice. That year, Arthur Wynne of the New York World published what he called a word cross in his paper's fun section, semicolon. However, comma, more than 10 years would go by before the crossword, as it is known by that time, would become one of the biggest fads of the 1920s. The first thing that we've learned is that Ms. Horan shouldn't have marked that one out when she did number 1. So because actually F is the best option. At the moment, we have independent clauses correctly combined with a semicolon, a conjunctive adverb, or sometimes called a transition, and a comma. And that's appropriate to combine these two independent clauses. The other options here where I've dropped the semicolon and instead included a comma, that's not good enough glue to hold our two independent clauses together. Neither is dropping the semicolon completely. And the last option, semicolon before a conjunction, is not going to be appropriate construction in this sentence. Thank you very much.